Hey, it's John and Dan with another edition of Dan's Models, and we're looking at a really cool HO scale something that you're going to talk about, Dan. What is this one?
This is an SD40-2 that I painted up as a Santa Fe unit. This is an old Athearn blue box that I've completely tricked out. It's actually kind of interesting. I've actually built this engine twice.
What do you mean?
Well, I built it a long time ago as a Santa Fe SD40-2 number 5113. And it actually made a cameo on one of our, I think it was one of the DCC install videos as one of the, engines behind the main engine.
Oh, on the meets that we staged?
On the run-by shots that we did in that color scheme. But as I'd had it put away, and then, parts of it had gotten broken, for one thing. I'd done some things like I used plastic handrails, not the original handrails, but aftermarket handrails, but made of plastic, and they're not very durable. And so that there was some trouble with that coming apart. And the paint wasn't as good as I can do now, and a lot of things about it just weren't as good as I can do now.
So are these metal handrails?
Yeah, these are brass handrails. So what I essentially did was I literally just tore it completely apart, stripped all the paint off of it.
Wow.
And rebuilt it. And the reason I changed the number is because there was an issue with the door. There's a little door on the side of the long hood over here that I guess Santa Fe modified a lot of them. It was a very minor little detail, but 5111 basically looked like it was still in stock form, so it was a little easier to deal with that part of it. So I decided, well, I'll just, change the number.
Yeah.
It's what they call a snoot, basically the means it has the long hood. Originally for Locotrol equipment, was kind of a way of remote controlling helpers, kind of like early DPUs, when they used to need a lot of space to house the equipment.
You could fit it in a smartphone now, probably.
Probably, yeah. That's why the nose is extended like that. But it's got just about everything you can do to it. As I said, it's got brass handrails, which are made out of brass wire and precision scale stanchions. It's got Canon fans on the roof. It's got a lot of extra antennas. Some of these I had to fabricate, like the center one. I had to fabricate the platform for this because there wasn't any aftermarket part available.
Did you just do that with styrene?
Actually, this is brass.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, the actual little antenna castings are from Details West, but the platform is brass. I think these outer ones are Details West parts as well. And also, like, the conduits are just brass wire that I fabricated. Sunshades are brass. It's got nickel silver wheels on it. It's got a CAN motor. It's got a Loc-Sound DCC sound decoder. And I actually did a 2-speaker install in this engine. They're both back here, but I actually used 2 dissimilar size speakers.
What's the reason for that?
Well, I'd never tried this before, but I had this idea because a Loc-Sound Select can take up to a 4 ohm load, anywhere between 4 and 16 ohms. So what I did was, I've noticed that if you put a 4 ohm load on it, it sounds better than having an 8 ohm or a 16 ohm load. So rather than put a single 4 ohm speaker, what I did is I had 2 8 ohm speakers, and I used those and wired them in parallel to produce a 4 ohm load. And so there's basically one rectangular speaker and then one smaller round speaker. And I think what it does is it gives a little bit more of a range, because I think the smaller, it's like a woofer and a tweeter in a home stereo thing, where you get one is a little bit better for bass and the other one's a little bit better for highs. So I haven't done it again, but it was an interesting experiment.
So it definitely does sound good. Yeah, the only thing is I can't tell if it sounds any better or any different
I
from
don't
other
think
ones.
it's
Just,
not like a dramatic, huge,
yeah.
big difference.
Just having sound in it is cool. You know, whether you had 2 speakers or 1 speaker, it would sound good. So
Yeah, one thing I actually thought of trying, which I haven't tried yet in one of these models, is I usually like to put a big speaker back here because there's a lot of room for it typically.
right.
But I also thought you could potentially put a smaller speaker somewhere toward the front. And the only reason for that would be to make it less obvious that the sound's coming from here.
Oh, okay. That
You know.
does, yeah, that would work.
But I haven't tested that theory yet.
Huh.
But anyway, the engine has the cab sub bass and long short hood are from Canon.
Oh, okay. So it is a Canon cab.
Yeah. It also has a full Canon cab interior, which I don't know if you can really see because it's hard to see in there. But
yeah,
I use that. Canon's recently released that, and it's kind of a neat thing. I also put there's photo etched step treads.
okay.
And there's photo etched anti-skid stuff on the deck. All the lighting is done with LEDs. There's surface mount LEDs inside the ditch lights so that no wires stick out the back.
Yeah, it looks really amazing.
And the number boards light up independently. I also modeled it. This engine is modeled as it would have appeared in the mid 90s. So it's got the lowered headlight. And I did some other fabrication on it, there's a little conduit that runs from the anti-glare panel up to the underside of the number board area, right in front of the windshield. And that's just a little piece of brass wire, but that's something that appears on a lot of Santa Fe locomotives. I'm not sure exactly what it does, but it's there, so I modeled it. And another interesting thing about this one is the anti-glare blue on the top didn't go all the way to the front of the nose. I confirmed that. I couldn't find a picture of this engine from above as a Santa Fe engine, but I found a couple pictures of it as a BNSF engine when it was and it was still painted in the yellow bonnet colors, and I didn't figure BNSF would have probably bothered to change the paint job, and it was like that. So I don't know why they did it that way. Most of the time they're all the way to the front. But anyway, that's the way it was, so that's the way I painted it.
It looks amazing.
So all the decals are microscale. It's painted with scale coat paint. On the back, I cut off and sanded all the original molded-on grab irons and that kind of detail, and smoothed it out, and then replaced it with freestanding grab irons and nut bolt washer castings. And I used some 40 link per inch chain for the little chains on the front and rear.
Yeah, I thought I noticed that on the front, that it had a real chain.
On the handrails, that's real chain. And, of course, added all the MU cables and all that kind of stuff to both ends, uncoupling levers, all the usual things. So pretty much, I think, as much as you could do to an Athearn has been done to this engine.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing looking.
Thank you. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. It looks way better than it did in its first incarnation. I even went through and did a little sculpting on the sill so that to shape, there's a little indentation where the sill gets narrower right through here. And then there's a little place where it gets wider again around the emergency fuel cutoff switch. And then it's fatter again up here. So the original way it was molded wasn't very clean.
Yeah, you think they would pay attention to a detail like that?
Yeah, well, it was just kind of soft. Like it wasn't really as crisp as it could have been. So I did a lot of filing and stuff, and I had to actually build up the part under the emergency fuel cutoff switch to thicken it up, and just added a brake chain. I added some. Well, they're on the other side now. You can't see them, but there's on the trucks. There's spare knuckles.
Oh, right.
Brackets like Santa Fe did, speed recorder. Just all kinds of little details like that. So, it's was a lot of work. I had to brake lines to the trucks.
Jeez.
And the air tanks are here are Details West parts, and some of the filters and things under there are aftermarket. So definitely a lot more detail than it had.
Yeah.
To begin with.
Yeah, it looks really nice. That's why when I first saw it, I was like, "Oh, wow, this is impressive,"
Yeah.
And I guess I've seen a few of these now.
In fact, even the exhaust hatch and the inertial filter hatch are Canon parts also. So,
I wonder why Canon just doesn't make models.
well, I don't know. Probably,
They could, right? And they would
they
look
would
really
probably
good.
look really good. They do make like the end of the model, and they make like hood stock for the top, but not the full model. They do make sides for an SD39, which I actually have a pair of and want to build one at one point. But I even did some shaping on the fuel tank on this one. I sanded off all the original details and replaced the gauges and fuel fillers with aftermarket parts, and I also added some O10 styrene end caps because EMD tanks have a little bit of a lip on the end because they have I think the end is welded on and it's just slightly bigger than the tank itself.
Yeah.
So to reproduce that, I put the end caps on it.
That's attention to detail that most people probably wouldn't even notice.
Probably, but I notice it. So it's there, and I think I posted a picture of this engine on Facebook, and somebody was like, "Why didn't you just buy an Intermountain engine?" It's because, I had this one and I wanted to do something with it.
A glutton for punishment.
Yeah. To be honest, I'm not that excited about the Intermountain SD40-2s.
So.
I've seen them in the hobby shop, and I was like, So I don't know, but just my opinion.
Well, I bet this one with all the modifications probably looks better than one of those anyway.
Well, it looks pretty. I think it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, we'll catch you on the next edition of Dan's Models. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, thanks.